So today we got Risk 16 and Arknights after about 4 hours of stream, and I wanted to make this video just in case anything changes if I am able to get Risk 18 to kind of show the progression. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to watch kind of like the playback of what I did and kind of explain my thought process and what we were kind of trying to achieve with positioning and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So here we are in the actual video here. What I want to do real quick though is just kind of explain a little bit of the risk. I'm sure you guys kind of know what's going on, so I'm not going to spend too much details on here. But the main idea here is I was having a lot of issues with the bosses for the most part. And so I wanted to take basically the base level of risk that I could against the bosses for right now. I was having a lot of issues kind of doing risk 2, and it seemed like I was just having not a fun time going against Vivian. And so I just wanted to kind of give her a little bit of a leeway so I can kill her kind of early on. So other than that though, I did kind of a general upkeep, I guess you can call it, or general buff for everybody. It's just a 15% attack, 15% attack speed, 30% max HP, and then just giving myself a little bit of a debuff with negative 30% attack and negative 20% max HP. And then we did max size operator reduced to 10. I wasn't really using that many people in the first place, and the DP regeneration is reduced by 50%. Didn't use any snipers or casters, so that was okay. And then just the neon stuff, and then max points reduced to 1, and then just having a little bit of buff on the crossbowman. So let's go ahead and actually jump into like the initial stages here, and we'll kind of talk about it. So what I've decided to do in my run is I had a AoE healer here, and then I had Searcher, I had Ling, Myrtle, Radiant Knight, Mudrock, Elysium. Elysium is actually kind of a new addition to this run, and I think he helped out quite a bit. And then I was actually taking Hoshi and then Gravel and Flametail and stuff. So the idea was to use Hoshi to block most of the corrosion damage, because man, were those guys messing me up a little bit. So here's kind of the general idea. I decided that I wanted to take this one down here, mainly just because the light down here is just what I was used to. I kind of set up a lot of the earlier runs with just using this light source. So, you know, some people use kind of these upper ones. This is just kind of what I was used to, and this is kind of the rhythm I was finding. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to change it much. We have Flametail kind of facing up here just to give us a little bit of that light up here, and I'm kind of making a little chain. Flametail is like awesome when it comes to this down like little spot here. She's able to do quite a bit. Now the timing was kind of hard to get with her because her skill 3 actually allows her to block one more unit, which does make, you know, her very, very useful, but only if I proc it at the right times. And when I need to proc it, it's usually when stuff hits the fan with everybody kind of coming up. So there's a lot of times where I just kind of forgot to do it. But then we put Myrtle out here for the DP, and then we get Elysium. So Elysium, like I said, was kind of a new addition. I think I ran about 3 runs with him. So he was kind of originally was in the place of Saga, but I wanted to use him for kind of a debuff and a little bit more, I guess, DP is kind of what the thought process was there. Now Ling came out. Ling has been the staple since pretty much I started, I guess. I've been using her dragons to kind of bait some stuff, as you can see here, positioning the dragon in kind of a way to help Elysium, and then eventually I will put out Searcher. So I'll kind of speed it up here because there's not too much kind of going on. Basically the general premise here is just to kind of alleviate some issues with merging here. And then what I'll do is put Searcher out here in a couple seconds once I get a little bit of that DP. And then I decided to actually smack this light here in a couple of minutes. I'm not sure exactly when I do it, but initially I wasn't hitting this light, and stuff was messing up my bottom lane so fast. Just because I wasn't lighting up this little area, just giving these archers a little bit of a buff against my Flametail. It just wasn't working. It wasn't jiving with me. And so I might as well put out Searcher. Now, the reason I kind of waited there is to bait as much as I possibly could on the archers, because I'm not going to keep this dragon there for very long, I don't think. I think I eventually get rid of him. And then we're popping all of our ults and stuff like that for the gathering. Basically, this is like the first wave of the gathering. I don't know how else you want to say it. Searcher's going to do here. You can see that they actually slipped by. So this is a timing issue with the actual skill and Searcher being out. Initially, this guy right here doesn't have to be walking out. I just made a little bit of an issue with the timing that I had, so I ended up having to deploy a dragon on the backside, but I could definitely kind of spice that up a little bit, make it a little bit better if I would have popped Searcher a little bit quicker. I did it in a couple different runs, so that was definitely something that was just on the back burner, and the only reason I didn't make the adjustments because I actually ended up kind of going through it and it worked out fine. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to make too much of a big deal. Now I put Mudrock out, and then I put Hoshi out here just because I wanted to make sure to have Hoshi kind of go last, or at least that was the thought process, to get that corrosion. Flametail's still down there dancing with the archers down there. Now here in a couple of minutes, it's going to make sense why her timing of her skill is going to make kind of the difference, basically, because right now even you can see that she's going to essentially have to block all 3 of these guys, and if I wasn't paying attention, it would have kind of not went well for me. Now, a big thing that I was really struggling with, and chat was kind of roasting me for, was Mudrock's skill 3. I have not used it a ton. Okay, I haven't used it a ton, and so the timing on that was something I had to adjust to quite a bit. Okay, so there was a lot of times where I was using it wrong, or I wasn't using it enough, and I wasn't using it soon enough. But basically here, I'm just kind of deciding like, what do I need to do next? And I was trying to get freed up deployment slots. Basically, I'm like, do I get rid of Myrtle? Do I get rid of the dragon? I decided to get rid of the dragon there for that free extra 2. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, we'll bait with the next dragon or when Vivian walks up. So I can't stand Vivian, bro. She seems like just a huge tank. And then I use the dragon just to bait it. Then I get rid of him, whatever. He doesn't really do much other than that, honestly. And then I kind of just let it play. Now, this is kind of where I decide, okay, now I need to start worrying about Mudrock. She's on the cuff of it because basically she's going to start taking a lot of damage here in a minute. And so I think what I'm trying to decide here is, okay, do I pop Mudrock and do I pop Elysium? And then I get rid of Myrtle here and I put up Searcher back here. So Searcher's placement was actually kind of a hit or miss. There was a lot of times where I was putting Searcher facing down in front of Mudrock to kind of deal with this Knight dude. And it just wasn't working. She was getting popped too fast. It just wasn't going to end up happening. And so I needed to find a way to keep her alive a little bit longer. So I decided to put her where Myrtle goes because I felt that that was actually a pretty decent spot and gave her a little bit of room to breathe. And then I put Elysium just to kind of help with the extra slow because I need to get Searcher's skill built up in case these guys are walking by, because Elysium's not going to be able to do much when it comes to these guys in terms of damage and stuff like that. Now, the next thing is I'm trying to decide Vivian. Do I bait her? Do I decide to let her walk? And what I decide to do there is pop Gravel here in a couple of minutes. And you can see this is actually where stuff starts to get a little bit hard, right? This is starting to get to a point where, as you can see, the bottom lane here with Flametail, this is what I was talking about, where everything starts to kind of come together and you're like worried about this section in the middle. Now I got to worry about Flametail. There's so many times that I forgot Flametail when these crabs came by, and there's a crab that always walks by and it ruins a good run. So I decided to pop Searcher's ult rather early, I think, right there. Okay, so right basically when the Knight walks up, and then I bait with Gravel. And the idea is to kind of get Vivian to pop off. So Mudrock can kind of survive a majority of it. She's I don't know, man. She's something else. So basically that's kind of what happens. I'm sitting here talking about what I need to do, pinpointing every single thing, and I'm just kind of needing to let it play. Now, I do decide to actually pop Radiant Knight here because I want to stun Vivian's thing. So I think initially I was having issues with this part, like deciding whether I want to use her there or, you know, bait the stun or what I want to do with it or let it go through. And I think I was having issues where it was starting to kind of go into my deeper part of my units and starting to kind of wipe stuff. And so this is where I'm having the conversation where like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to Radiant Knight everything. I'm going to put a dragon out. This dragon is basically just there to do an additional damage to these guys. He's not going to be there to do the damage to the Knight. I already know that. And then down here, I was actually kind of waiting for that dragon just in case I messed up on that Flametail stuff. I could actually put the dragon down there to help if I needed to. Luckily, I actually did it pretty well down in the Flametail thing, and I didn't have to do anything about that. Now, this is where stuff gets a little sketchy because this is about as far as we've ever gotten before. The Knight's about dead. I'm like, yes. So I'm going to bait with the Gravel. Honestly, coming back to it and thinking about it, I don't know if that was necessarily the best option. I think it actually works out because it ends up hitting Mudrock, and it actually saves me another wave of essentially of Vivian's attack. But I think if I would have let her walk up, I think Searcher would have been able to do a pretty decent amount of damage. That's really what I kind of like struggle with, whether that was kind of worth it or not. But we'll kind of go through. I'm talking through like whether I should, you know, let Gravel kind of hold on to it. And that's kind of what I was debating. But I was like, you know what? Mudrock's going to survive. That's cool. So I baited that, and I was pretty happy with that, actually. And then I think this is where I start to kind of worry about some stuff because Searcher's obviously on her way out. Flametail's okay. She can kind of hold her own down there. I'm going to hold on to that. Okay, never mind. I'm not. I thought I held on to that dragon in case Flametail needed it, but I guess I was pretty confident there. And then I think this is where I decide, okay, I'm going to pop Mudrock and I'm going to pop Elysium at the same time. I'm going to let Vivian kind of walk into here. I'm going to see how that works because I know I didn't have much time on the dragon. And what my hope was here is that I could basically just like bait everybody until I got Radiant Knight out. That was kind of the idea, that I knew that I could eventually kill all these other guys and Vivian was just going to be like the last stand. So I'm trying to give Mudrock a little bit of room, putting Gravel out to kind of bait a little bit. And then I think I end up putting Myrtle out because Myrtle's a, you know, she's DPS, bro. But then it ends up killing everybody. I'm like, ooh, I'm a little scared, but she stands there for a little bit. So not too much to worry about. Flametail, as always, just doing her thing, and then Radiant Knight. So I don't know if that's going to work necessarily for Risk 18. I think I'm going to have to tweak it a little bit to do a little bit of extra damage to Vivian. I don't necessarily know if the Knight's going to die either. So that's something I'm a little bit cautious about, something I need to kind of tweak a little bit and kind of adjust there. But I'm pretty happy with getting Risk 16 on kind of the first week. It took me a little bit longer on CC7 actually to wait until the second week to get to that point. So it's really kind of a proud moment for myself, I guess, and hoping to get to Risk 18. So hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know in the comments if you did. Like the video if you guys like the content, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your night, guys. Peace.